here. If you're that angry, if you're that fired up, kick his fucking ass! When Buck leaves, Drake comes back into the room innocently with the desserts in hand. Come on, how did he not hear all of that from the kitchen just 2 feet away? Up in their room, Josh is upset because he thinks Buck is definitely going to kill him, and Drake agrees that he's a dead man and asks if he can have his computer once he's gone. Josh says, "Oh man, what am I gonna do?" And we get yet another clip from the intro sequence where Drake comes up with an idea and says, "I got it." So Drake takes Josh to go learn some martial arts from Johnny Lawrence. Just kidding. They go to a random instructor and ask if he can make Josh a karate expert in the next 24 hours.
Gentlemen!
He tells them no goddamn way. It takes years to learn karate. But after being bribed with $30 cash, $52 if you adjust for inflation, the instructor agrees to give Josh a crash course, and a training montage begins. This is the part of the episode where Dig In by Lenny Kravitz plays. So we have this short little scene to blame for the entire episode being banned from streaming, which is a damn shame because it's a great song. And like I said in the intro, they made an alternative version already with a different song playing during the montage. So I really don't get why this episode is banned in the first place. At the start of the karate montage, Josh is getting his ass kicked by a 5-year-old girl, but by the end, he manages to put this little kindergarten girl in her place, showing his impressive progress. There's also a moment where the karate instructor starts flossing his teeth, and Drake and Josh glance at each other nervously, which is another shot from the intro sequence. Sidebar, glance at each other nervously, which is another shot from the intro sequence. Sidebar, if Drake was a good brother, then he'd be training right now to fight alongside Josh so they could both work as a team and take Buck down. But Drake couldn't be bothered. If you're curious to see the 2 different versions of the karate montage scene, there's a YouTube video that compares both scenes back to back that I'll link in the description. Cut to the high school, where you can actually see Eric in the background as an extra while the kids gather for the fight. And yeah, they didn't give him a name yet, and they didn't give him any spoken lines, so it's just a little cameo. But I will point out that in season 4 episode Eric Punches Drake, we find out that Eric is a pacifist and doesn't believe in violence, so he really shouldn't be standing there all excited to watch a beatdown. But of course, they didn't really develop the characters at this point, so I'll let it slide. Josh hypes himself up to fight Buck, and when Buck shows up, he immediately knocks out Josh cold with 1 single hit. That's 1 shot, baby! And I'll be honest, I don't really like this part. It kind of feels mean-spirited to me, like Josh didn't deserve to get beaten shitless. Come on. Cut to Drake in Josh's bedroom, where Josh is frantically searching through all of the clothes trying to find his Miss Nancy dress. Drake reveals he hid it, and Josh calls him the worst stepbrother ever. Josh demands Drake give him back the Miss Nancy dress, to which Drake keeps saying no, and tells Josh he doesn't need it. And I actually really love this part.
If somebody told you that they had to wear a dress to give good advice, what would you say? I'd say that's ridiculous! I'd say good advice comes from the heart and from what's inside you. Guess what, Josh? Looks like you just gave some good advice, and I don't see you wearing any dress.
Josh is psyched that he doesn't have to wear a dress to give good advice after all, and he says a line that would probably not get written in 2025.
I never have to dress like a freakish man lady again!
Drake apologizes for getting Josh beat up, and Josh says it's okay, I know you didn't mean to, and apologizes for calling him a bad stepbrother. We get one final hug me brother moment, and one final shot that's in the intro sequence, and honestly, that was a really fantastic pilot episode that completely sets the tone and the vibe for the rest of the series. And it's a shame that the episode isn't available anymore, basically anywhere. I've seen some interviews with Drake Bell where he explains that in recent years, a lot of younger kids from the next generation have discovered Drake and Josh through streaming platforms, and they've become big fans of the show. I don't know if that was a pandemic thing or what, but either way, I think it's great that kids who weren't even born at the time can still enjoy Drake and Josh, because it's a fantastic show that really holds up. But it is kind of funny to picture if someone never got to watch these episodes on actual TV and only had access to them on, say, Paramount Plus, then they've got to be wondering where the hell 90% of the clips from the intro even come from, since the pilot episode's not on streaming anywhere. Drake and Josh first got created after producers saw the comedic chemistry between Drake Bell and Josh Peck when they worked together on The Amanda Show, which I mistakenly called all that in the previous video, and you guys let me know it. And the pilot for Drake and Josh, which premiered just a few years later, gave the perfect example of why this show was a brilliant idea and would go on to work so well for the next 4 seasons. The way the two actors play off each other is simply fantastic. Every scene with them together is funny, and when it's time to be a little bit dramatic, they can nail that too. The last scene in the episode where Josh says, "Still friends," and Drake says, "Nah, brothers," makes me almost tear up a little if I'm being honest. 10 out of 10 pilot for a 10 out of 10 series. Bring it back to Paramount Plus in its entirety. You cowards! But enough of me yapping. What do you guys think of the pilot episode of Drake and Josh? Do you think it aged poorly or like a fine wine? And do you wish they'd released the unaired pilot with the other guy playing Walter? Let me know how you're feeling in the comments, and let's kick it. And as always, I gotta give a massive, goddamn throbbing shout out.
Quiet on Set exposed a ton of disgusting things about Nickelodeon and Dan Schneider. But did you know there were so many things they had to leave out for a variety of reasons? The producers of the documentary had to rely on people who were willing to go on the record, and a ton of people who could speak out are legitimately scared for their careers. And that's where we come in. Because since we aren't airing on national television, I can get into all sorts of things that Quiet on Set couldn't even touch. While yes, some of these revelations are based in speculation or rumors, some of them have been corroborated and openly discussed by people who were there. And most of this stuff is way more outrageous than what was covered in the documentary. So let's get into the full story of what really happened to these victims of Dan Schneider and Nickelodeon. Dan Schneider produced and wrote some of the most impactful kids shows of the last 3 decades, like iCarly, Victorious, The Amanda Show, all that, Drake and Josh, and more. But by pretending to be this faux father figure to the vulnerable child stars on his sets, he's molded his protege's brains to make them susceptible to not only his fantasies, but the sexual fantasies of his creepy friends and even some colleagues on set. And his reach even spread beyond the child actors. He was fulfilling his fantasies through the kids at home who watched the shows. That sounds wild and dark, I know, but the evidence is all there. The subliminal messages, the court cases, the hush money, the psychology behind it all, the feet, so many feet, and even the bombshells so huge Nickelodeon's been forking out money to silence them for years. Like multiple pregnancy scandals. And it all starts with Dan's first golden child and victim, the purest example of Dan's desire to be both a dark father figure and an exploitative admirer, Amanda Bynes. Before we go any further, I need you to keep in mind as we go through this roller coaster of disgust that this is how young Amanda was the first time a 30-year-old Dan scouted her in one of these creepy comedy showcases for children. Initially, Dan hadn't intended to add any new talent to his current show, all that, but as soon as he saw Amanda, he was obsessed.
Is God sitting up there in heaven, looking down at me and saying, Amanda's had it pretty easy?
He quickly put her on his show and immediately began showcasing an intense favoritism, an unsettling obsession with his newest protege.
There would be times where Amanda would just be missing. And a lot of times we would just hear that she would be with Dan.
You have to remember, Dan was the dream maker for all these young, aspiring stars. But most of these kids didn't get the Star is Born, plucked from a comedy stage moment. They had to go through rounds and rounds of casting that had creepy elements themselves. We'll get back to those. Or for some others, they'd have to rise through the ranks at Dan's notorious child comedy boot camps. And yes, it gets immediately creepy, because these comedy boot camps, where kids were sent without their parents, not only were they run by Dan and special guests like convicted pedophile Brian Peck, who we'll get back to, but also these comedy boot camps, for some reason, entailed regular kid-only pool parties. That's right, no parents, just grown men and a bunch of very young Hollywood hopefuls in bathing suits. It's been said that Megan Fox and Hilary Duff both got their big parties too. I mean, it certainly adds an ick factor to the hot tub interviews on the Amanda Show, where a preteen Amanda Bynes in a bathing suit hung out with adult characters, frequently men, in a hot tub. Of course, this recurring segment was created by Dan. He loves putting kids in these adult situations where even a grown woman would be objectified. But not only was he writing these sketches for fictional characters, he wrote himself into an interview and openly bragged about his power over the whole situation.
Yes, I'm the executive producer and the head writer.
You actually wrote the words we're saying to each other right now.
Yes, I wrote this whole conversation that we're having right now. Yes, I'm the
About his power over the whole situation.
yes, I'm the executive producer and the head writer.
You actually wrote the words we're saying to each other right now.
Yes, I wrote this whole conversation that we're having right now.
And that's one thing that's important to remember about Dan. Unlike some showrunners who write and produce in the background, Dan wanted to be seen as the mastermind behind these shows. I mean, he did start out as an actor, and he frequently wrote in cameos for himself to put a face to his status as the creator. But one thing Dan notoriously was not was nice. So it's a bit suspicious just how much he invested in Amanda. When her own TV pilot failed after all that, Dan came to the rescue and pitched Nickelodeon on The Amanda Show. When The Amanda Show ended, he created a new TV show for her, What I Like About You. He even propelled her film career by casting her in her first movie, Big Fat Liar. But apparently the reason he liked working with her so much was because it seemed like her parents cared more about Amanda's potential fame than about her well-being.
Amanda Bynes' parents were very hands-on with her career. Specifically her dad. A big part of that was his relationship with Dan Schneider. They carefully crafted Amanda's career.
This extra attention her father put into her career makes sense because even though Amanda's dad was a dentist, he had always wanted to be a stand-up comedian. He was living his dream through Amanda.
They decided to put the automatic teller machine into the lobby of a police station. So now when you get robbed, you don't have to wait around all day for the cops to show up.
And so when it came to exactly how Dan wanted to interact with Amanda, how they would spend their time together, her parents were completely hands-off. People have recalled Dan coming right up behind Amanda and hanging on her like a boyfriend, pressed up against her with his arms around her in front of her parents, and they didn't do anything. I mean, this is Miranda Cosgrove, but would you be okay with your kid's boss doing this to them? Like, seriously, Dan's sets were weird. I have a friend with connections to one of Dan's shows, and they confirmed that not only would kids be brought in for one-on-one meetings with Dan when their parents weren't around, but people on set also called Dan Daddy. He really wanted kids to see him like a father figure. I mean, look at who he gravitated toward to lead his shows. Jamie Lynn Spears, father was a notoriously absent alcoholic. Jeanette McCurdy, abusive mom and distant father. Victoria Justice, divorced parents. Ariana Grande, absent father. And Amanda's nightmare relationship with her parents made her a perfect fit too, especially as she aged and grew even more distance from them.
Amanda tries to run away from home, and in this moment, she turns to Dan for help. Amanda's parents are really, really upset with Dan's actions through this.
But something that didn't come up in the documentary is how beyond the running away, according to Dan's wife, Amanda was basically living with her and Dan at 16 years old when she tried to file for emancipation. And while all of this was playing out, Dan was also changing how Amanda was portrayed on his shows. Now that she was high school aged, Dan apparently thought the content she was in could mature up too.
He thought that he should be the one to kind of usher Amanda into adulthood.
So he created What I Like About You for her, which was so much raunchier than his normal Nickelodeon stuff. I was genuinely shocked when I realized it was one of his shows. I mean, my friend told me that watching What I Like About You after school was how she learned about erections.
Aww, I love duckies. Uh-oh. Duckies are moving. Duckies are moving.
I mean, even the way sex is treated on the show is so casual and overt.
You've been together a month and you haven't done it yet? How did you get Ben to wait a month to do it? I mean, I know you got a great personality, but it's not that great.
I mean, reminder, she wasn't suddenly like a whole scene dedicated to her skirt being too short, or covering her body in mud, or how about cake sitting, which is literally a porn genre. These two characters are supposed to be sisters, and yet they're smearing chocolate all over each other's boobs and turning it into chocolate mud wrestling. And if you're thinking it's all harmless comedy, you're taking it the wrong way. Well, they showed us they wanted us to think about it sexually because the wrestling ends with her boyfriend walking in and saying,
God bless America.
Ends with her boyfriend walking in and saying,
God bless America.
And just look at the comments on the videos themselves. While some people are complaining about how skimpy her clothes always are, others are suggesting how to make the scenes more sensual by having her strip fully naked or dubbing the chocolate wrestling as one of the hottest bits ever on TV. Thanks to Dan's second father status and the control he had over pretty much everything in Amanda's environment, Amanda was conditioned for all of this years before. I mean, even the shows she was on, like all of Dan's female-led shows, had hardly any parents in sight. Just look at his male-led shows like Drake and Josh and Henry Danger versus the female-led shows like The Amanda Show, What I Like About You, iCarly, or Zoe 101, where the parents are either absent, abroad, or have sent their kids to boarding school. The closest we got was Victorious with some occasional parental appearances, but for the most part, Dan's female-led shows were set in a Girls Gone Wild world where chaperones were either dopey teachers or unprepared older siblings. Consciously or not, Dan was trying to create the same environment in the show that he wanted on set. Young girls with no real traditional role models besides him, of course.
You know, sometimes parents are so dumb.
Former child actor and dancer Allison Stoner actually has a super insightful podcast called Dear Hollywood about the effect fame and acting has on children's psychological development and why so many child stars struggle with mental health, addiction, and cycles of abuse, just like Amanda did in adulthood. And one thing they go over is the way kids' brains encode memories.
You know, movies are full of intense scenes, and as a child, if I'm reenacting this, or even just pretending to witness it, I'm enrolling myself in that experience as if it's real. I couldn't separate what was mine or the characters. Remember...
What is he doing?
It's scarily easy to normalize things for a child through exposure and repetition, like Dan did both on set and in the real world and in the shows themselves. Like going to people who aren't your parents for advice because your parents just...
That wasn't GG, bro. Why did we lose that? Not GG, bro. How did we lose? That was not GG, bro. How did we lose that? It wasn't lose-lose, it was a 2v2. If it tied, we still would have found out it was banana afterward, because somebody else would have died. I'm not playing this, bro. I'm not playing in this lobby of chess. I literally said I found blue. He didn't even know I got blue out. I said I got blue. He said, no, I got blue. Like what? Like what, bro? dropping my phone. I drop my phone like every day, bro. Banana, you're cooked. Banana, you are fried. I'm coming for you, bro.
Show literally described as documenting infants in the animal kingdom. It just also makes all of this so much worse that not only was he normalizing all of this foot stuff, I mean, even down to keeping your feet manicured and toes painted consistently, Dan was pimping out these child actors to do all these weird fetishized acts that people pay money to see
Banana,
grown
you're
adults
cooked.
do on OnlyFans.
Banana, you are fried. I'm
Grooming
coming
them
for
to
you,
think
bro.
it's normal as early as those auditions. Think about what it's teaching your kids. If you take your shoes off and run around exactly how daddy wants you to, he'll make you a star. And since they did it in the audition, why would they be weirded out by being barefoot on set or shooting a scene with their toes? And then getting $50 for someone to take a picture of your feet starts to sound like a silly thing to get upset about. It's all conditioning these kids to A, see all these weird asks as normal, and B, focus on making Dan happy at any cost. It's totally exploiting the fact that child actors are taught to be grateful for the opportunity to even have a job. It's an industry of no's, so when you get a yes, you're supposed to keep saying yes to whatever it takes. Who's gonna say, no, never mind, I'm giving up my dream job and quitting? But where were the adults? Well, remember, parents were actively discouraged from coming on set. And then the other adults who were there to make the show were actually suffering through their own abuses.
Female writers on The Amanda Show told us that this experience was really one of the most disturbing in their careers.
Working for Dan was like being in an abusive relationship.
Now, just to set the stage, in the 90s, it was still hard for women to even get positions in writers' rooms. I mean, the Center for the Study of Women in Television and Film says only 13% of writers were women in 1998. It was actually so hard to break in as new female writers that Christy Stratton and Jenny Kilgan had to actually share a salary. And as it turns out, just like the kids, a lot of the adults on these shows were also handcuffed to this workplace as their only chance at achieving their dreams.
This was my dream job. I mean, this is what I wanted. I'm not about to turn it down.
Which means they were also at the mercy of Dan.
Dan could be very volatile. I was scared.
As the showrunner, Dan was their boss as well as someone they had to interact with daily in close quarters. It's not like the other studio execs who just pop in from time to time. The showrunner's word is final on set. Well, this showrunner not only told his employees multiple times that he didn't think women were funny, he also was known to scream at people when he didn't get his way, which makes it extra uncomfortable and intimidating that this grown man who will happily scream in your face started pestering his female writers for massages. And if that's not bad enough, guess who he also asked for massages from various sources over the years? The kids on his shows too. But outside of the massages, Dan would find all kinds of ways to flex how much power he had over these women.
scream, "I'm an idiot," or "slut." And if you didn't, he would send you the message again. He would scream out, "Say it," until you did.
And if that wasn't unprofessional enough,
Dan was showing pornography on his computer screen.
but perhaps the most disturbing was when he made a female writer pantomime sodomy to humiliate her.
Showing until you did.
And if that wasn't unprofessional enough,
Dan was showing pornography on his computer screen.
but perhaps the most disturbing was when he made a female writer pantomime sodomy to humiliate her.
Dan was just said, "You know what would be funny? If you leaned over the table and acted like you were being sodomized." She couldn't get out of it. You know, he's begging her. So she just leaned over the table and did what he asked her to do. It was probably the wrongest thing I've ever seen happen to a woman in a professional environment ever.
But despite the fact that Christy endured all of this torture, Dan still fired her 3 days before the end of season 1. And Jenny only lasted a few days into season 2 before being bullied into quitting. And in Dan's recent softballed interview, he seriously downplays his role in this treatment and any threats of retaliation against these women for complaining. But he completely failed to acknowledge Jenny's report of how things went down.
He had gotten caught doing something ethically wrong and said, "If I find out you told on me, I'm going to do something even worse to you. You're not going to work again."
And despite knowing that her writing career would be over, Jenny went ahead and filed a lawsuit against Dan and Nickelodeon, all in hopes that it would prevent anyone from suffering the way she did. Unfortunately, while her career stalled out, Dan's kept going. After that, Dan went on to have largely, if not all, male writers' rooms. Which begs the question, if Dan hated women so much and was so convinced that they are not funny, why did the vast majority of his very comedic shows center around young girls trying to be funny? Well, that's because some things were funnier when girls were doing them, or at least they were to Dan. And a perfect and disgusting example involves Jamie Lynn Spears. While filming Zoe 101, Jamie Lynn Spears shot a scene that is so suggestive, we can't even include it in this video without it getting flagged by YouTube.
There are all these setups that reference porn.
Yet it aired on national television on a kids show. Basically, her co-star Alexa Nikolas was supposed to squirt a goo pop at Jamie Lynn, but Dan was creepily specific about how it had to land on this 13-year-old's face. Instead of letting the goo fall where it may, they took the shot again and again, and even brought in a props person with a syringe to strategically make sure it hit her face exactly how Dan wanted it. Like, look how intentional that is, crossing her lip. And it's not like the people on set didn't know what they were going for. Jamie's castmate recalled,
"We heard the boys saying it's a shot."
like, not only is goo pop at Jamie Lynn, but Dan was creepily specific about how it had to land on this 13-year-old's face. Instead of letting the goo fall where it may, they took the shot again and again, and even brought in a props person with a syringe to strategically make sure it hit her face exactly how Dan wanted it. Like, look how intentional that is, crossing her lip. And it's not like the people on set didn't know what they were going for. Jamie's castmate recalled,
"We heard the boys saying it's a shot."
like, not only is it one big sick joke to Dan, it's as if he's making these shows for two audiences, kids and his own friends. But he's also capitalizing on the fear of being the odd one out. If you're a young girl who doesn't get a sexual joke, but everyone else is laughing, 9 times out of 10, you're just going to uncomfortably giggle and move on. You don't want to be the prude. Alexa's actually a great example, too, of how hard it was for even the best parents to keep tabs on set, because something they didn't mention in the documentary is, not only did Dan insist on sitting in on all of her wardrobe fittings,
I would hear the chair like creaking if he even breathed. Now looking back at that, it doesn't seem right because I never experienced that ever again. That was only a Dan experience.
when she's standing there in these skimpy skirts and the wardrobe person is taking photos, Dan...
He would also want the Polaroids.
Oh, that's foul.
And after Alexa got bullied by Jamie Lynn on set, Dan isolated Alexa from her mom, screamed at her that it wasn't her show, and allegedly flat out said, "Nobody likes you." That was one of his biggest defense mechanisms, fear. Fear of people hating you, of getting fired and blacklisted, fear of a grown man screaming in your face. Dan relied on the power dynamics of kids being told to listen to adults and the child actor psyche of it literally being your job to please all of the grown-ups. It's more like how a father would interact with a child than a boss interacting with an employee. And when that didn't work, there's always money. Another thing Quiet on Set didn't touch on for some reason, even though they had Alexa interviewed, was that when Alexa finally started talking about all of this as an adult, she got a call from Dan's lawyer asking her how much she needed for her to be quiet. But here's where it gets really scary. It wasn't just Dan offering hush money, it was Nickelodeon itself.
They had it in the budget. They would actually have it in the budget for hush hush money.
Jeanette McCurdy, who starred in iCarly, revealed in her book that Nickelodeon had also offered her hush money to the tune of $300,000. Jeanette explained that it was an attempt to silence her about her time working with Dan. Just keep that in mind as you start to see Nickelodeon's new statement popping up in articles where they profess their commitment to fostering a safe and professional workplace environment free of harassment or other kinds of inappropriate conduct, and then tell people to take money and shut up. Well, Jeanette didn't take the money, and she revealed yet another creepy depiction of Dan on set, describing times when he offered her massages, he's obsessed with massages, took a photo of her in a bikini, and despite being underage, tried to peer pressure her into drinking, explaining that he already had the Victorious cast drinking regularly and the iCarly cast needed to loosen up. But as we're seeing repeatedly with Dan, he's always strategic with his fixations. The massage requests and bikini pics and peer pressure was all much easier to push onto a girl like Jeanette, who was actively suffering abuse from her mom. When Jeanette's book came out, a spokesperson for Dan and Nickelodeon wrote it off as just being a beautiful tribute to getting the help she needed to get through the trauma she experienced with balancing her family and a high-pressured work life. In reality, Dan capitalized on the fact that Jeanette wanted time away from her mom and the fact that she had to stay on his good side to keep her job. And he wasn't wrong. Jeanette did stay quiet and probably would have remained that way without the extensive years of therapy she's gone through. Jeanette even mentioned Dan's manipulation tactics in her book, saying he does this with every new star of a show he's making. He takes you under his wing, you're his favorite. He specifically did this with Miranda Cosgrove, buddying up to her as he elevated her from a side character to a star. And let's just remember, when she started Drake and Josh and first met Dan, Miranda looked like this. But really, this repeated behavior goes all the way back to before this. Remember, when she started Drake and Josh and first met Dan, Miranda looked like this. But really, this repeated behavior goes all the way back to before Amanda even. The whole reason he even saw Amanda at that children's
What enough people venting in 2026, bro? Are you serious?
was performing there. Katrina was the first girl Dan thought of making a spin-off for, literally pitching it as The Katrina Show. But once he saw Amanda, it was out with the old and in with the new.
After that, I'm sort of like edged out by like a younger version of me.
Just as quickly as you could gain Dan's attention, it could be taken away, which is an abuse tactic.
You wanted Dan to like you because if he didn't, he was mean to you.
And I know this seems like a lot of people saying they were uncomfortable, but you can actually see the discomfort in Dan's own BTS footage.
She say nice things about me? Because I will tase her if necessary.
Uh-oh.
I have the taser. We haven't had to use it in a long time. But
I said lots of nice things. These videos make me so nervous.
Why? It's too bad I didn't cast a pretty girl to play your girlfriend. Oh no. That's a little joke because you're ridiculously beautiful.
Hey!
Why are you sitting on the floor of the set?
Because we are! But the best examples of how Dan was exploited.
It's too bad I didn't cast a pretty girl to play your girlfriend. Oh no. It's too bad I didn't.
These videos make me so nervous.
Why? It's too necessary.
Saying they were uncomfortable, but you can actually see the discomfort in Dan's own BTS footage.
She say nice things about me? Because I will tase her if necessary.
Uh-oh.
I have the taser. We haven't had to use it in a long time. But
I said lots of nice things. These videos make me so nervous.
Why? It's too bad I a pretty girl to play your girlfriend. Oh no, that's a little joke because you're ridiculously beautiful. Why are you sitting on the floor of the set?
Because we are. But the best examples of how Dan was exploiting these underage kids are in the shows themselves. I mean, you can only control a child's world so much, but on screen, it's a different story. Dan, who had been not just getting away with this behavior for a decade, but was being worshipped by the industry for his achievements, Dan was starting to take on the role of a god, and he wasn't subtle about making himself appear that way.
It's not our place to question that.
Yeah, Dan's a god, right? As the shows progressed, so did his boldness.
Want to get slapped with a sausage? Sure. I want to be on the wood. What's the wood? I want to be on it. It makes me look chesty.
Now we actually see multiple shots like the Goop Pop coming back over and over again with the corn framing and all. And he even leveled it up to squirting lotion on Daniela Monet's face. But then he took it a step even further with Ariana. Instead of being squirted by another actor, this one was way more suggestive, with very purposeful framing pulled directly out of corn. And if you think it's coincidentally similar to corn, how do you explain her squeezing a potato with both hands, yelling,
"Come on, give up the juice."
But you also have to remember that he was approving all of their costumes, which were getting skimpier and skimpier as the years went on, putting them in things that some of the stars have said that they would never wear even now as an adult. And he was deciding who they should be and who they should be attracted to. I mean, check out whose photo is in Tori's locker on Doodalicious magazine, surrounded by all these other heartthrobs her character is in love with, labeled Who's Hot? Dan Schneider. He was finally fully stepping into a comfort zone with Victorious, where he was untouchable enough to say, "This teenage girl is in love with me because I said so." But here's the most dangerous thing about Dan. It's not just what he does. It's what the people around him feel empowered to do in this safe haven of inappropriate behavior that he created. As they revealed in Quiet on Set, there were multiple convicted pedophiles working on Nickelodeon sets throughout Dan's time in charge. I mean, Quiet on Set went into not one, not two, but 3 predators who worked on the shows. And there's even a 4th one they didn't cover. He worked as an editor for Nickelodeon and was literally caught on To Catch a Predator. Of the 3 they did include, one was a worker who brought a young boy to set and did things to him, and one was a production assistant who was so integrated on the set he even made it into some of the on-camera footage.
It was his job to basically walk the kids around the set.
The terrifying thing about all these predators is how methodically they work. We'll get into it even further in our next episode, but one of the key steps for them is to get really close to the kids' families. Since he seemed so safe, when Jason started emailing their daughter, MJ said she didn't think anything of it until he sent her daughter a picture of him touching himself.
He had also told this young girl, "I can get you on other shows."
And it was even worse when the police caught him.
In 2003, they searched his home. They find this enormous trove of child pornography. 1,768 images of young girls in erotic poses, 238 images of young girls in sexually explicit poses, and 2 images of girls engaged in bondage activity.
They even found Jason's journal where he detailed all of his thoughts and even said,
"I am a pedophile full-blown. I really have been giving in to my desire for little girls."
Meanwhile, a well-known vocal coach and actor in his 40s was actively abusing a minor throughout this entire period. And because of Quiet on Set, we now know that that minor was Drake Bell. There is so much there that I'm going to dive deeper into what Drake went through and how it impacted his life choices in my next video. But the main question when it comes to all of these predators running rampant on set is, how could all of their behavior go unnoticed? I mean, it was so normalized to have these inappropriate, predatory, and grooming relationships on set that it even started being something to flaunt in front of others. For instance, Victorious star Liz Gillies was 16 when she met one of Dan's friends who was writing songs for the show, and he was 36 at the time. And apparently, she became such good friends with this man, 20 years older than her, that the second she turned 18, they started dating and moved in together. They're now married, so I genuinely hope she's okay, but here's the thing. Even if her husband didn't groom her, think about the environment Liz was in. By being involved with one of Dan's friends, it would save her from Dan and the multiple other creeps on set. I mean, remember, even the boys weren't safe. Drake Bell went through hell as a much younger child. Of course, Liz was going to pursue this more attractive, safe option. It was survival. So it was all just normal. Dan's literally taking pictures of kids' feet, and preteens are sitting in his lap, and no one was batting an eye. And then there's scenes like this where someone had to choreograph how they would do this to a grown man.
Are they doing it right?
And now we get to the big question. Dan created this environment filled with predators. He conditioned these kids. He was having Nickelodeon pay people for their silence. So, did Dan ever actually sleep with or try to sleep with any of these child actors? Well, though no one has outright come forward yet, there is some terrifyingly convincing evidence pointing to Dan as a predator himself.
I played T-Bone on
Remember,
Nickelodeon's
coming
iCarly.
forward with too big of claims against Dan and Nickelodeon is scary, and a lot of people have been paid for their silence. I mean, Quiet on Set literally set out to expose the toxic set, but left out some pretty major details about Dan's behavior from people they got for interviews, likely to avoid risks of legal action. So keep in mind here that what we're about to go over is definitely unsubstantiated. In fact, I'm throwing up a rumors flag in the corner here just so you don't forget that everything that follows is uncorroborated. But also, I tried to focus here on things that fans keep returning to as possibly having at least some amount of truth to them. As you might recall, the reason Zoey 101 got canceled in 2008 was because Jamie Lynn Spears got pregnant at 16. Well, some people think they're lying about who the father is. 2 months before Jamie Lynn announced her pregnancy, this blind item popped up saying that a female star on an ensemble teen show was not only pregnant, but it was by one of her producers. But not only that, it concluded with, new boyfriends are being lined up as we speak. Now, a lot of people have written this off because Jamie Lynn and Casey Aldridge had reportedly been dating for 2 years, but according to close family and friends, that was not the full story. Not only were Jamie Lynn and Casey broken up at the time of her pregnancy, they were living in different states. Casey had even recently posted to his MySpace account, "Me and Jamie are over," and he started dating someone else. And Jamie Lynn was pursuing Kevin Federline's brother. Star Magazine's sources insisted Casey is being paid off to be the family's fall guy while the real father remains unidentified to avoid being charged with statutory. Not only were she and Casey pursuing different people states away, 2 Spears family insiders believed the real father was actually a producer on Zoey 101 who Jamie Lynn had gotten close to as a role model, but took advantage of her. Sound familiar? So theoretically, the implication is that as soon as it was clear Dan had impregnated Jamie Lynn, people, either Dan's people or Nickelodeon's people, had to rush to get her on and off hometown boyfriend with the love of the spotlight to claim he was the father. And they probably paid him a nice amount for it. Then they sold it to America by slapping their faces on the front of magazines talking about how idyllic their little family supposedly was. I know that's basing a lot off of various anonymous sources, but it's important to note that A, this was at a time when magazines were paying good money for Spears family drama, so their sources had grown to be well established and consistent. And B, the blind item was posted by a user who went by Ent Lawyer, who was not only a prominent and pretty darn accurate blind item reporter, his identity was unmasked just this year, revealing that he was in fact a highly regarded entertainment lawyer in Los Angeles for decades. So he was hearing a lot. And B, the blind item was posted by a user who went by Ent Lawyer, who was not only a prominent and pretty darn accurate reporter, his identity was unmasked just this year, revealing that he was in fact a highly regarded entertainment lawyer in Los Angeles for decades.
I got a chance to watch the Quiet on Set program, and I reached out to Dan to see if there was something that he'd be willing to discuss.
Before the pregnancy announcement was pretty spot on.
Dan,
but here's what really has Spears fans concerned. Look at this side-by-side of her daughter and Dan, and then compare it to the supposed father.
What we saw
and this might not be the only instance of a pregnancy cover-up, because another blind item by our good pal and lawyer reveals that Jamie Lynn wasn't the only one who got knocked up by this producer. He had a habit of going after tweeners, often lesser stars of the shows he worked on, which would track for Dan because he loved to discover new stars from the ensembles of his current shows. But here's the part that really is interesting. And lawyer
Let's talk
says
about the massage.
the only other time he got
Watching
someone
the
pregnant,
content
it was
yesterday,
someone
it was
who was a
disturbing.
much bigger star than Jamie Lynn.
It was wrong
The
that I
actress
ever
got
put anybody in that
abortion and
position.
a healthy
It was
sum
the
of
wrong
money
thing to
from
do.
the producer.
I'd never do it today.
Everything
I'm
was
embarrassed that I
hushed
did it then.
because the show
I
was
apologize
making
to
way too
anybody
much
that I
money.
ever put
I'm
in that
just saying
situation.
that could
And
explain
even
this
additionally,
cryptic message
I
sent by
apologize
someone
to
believed
the
to be
people who were
Amanda
walking
Bynes
around
directly
Video
to
Village or
Lawyer.
wherever
She
they
starts
happened,
off
because there were
talking
lots
about
of
how
people
guilty
there
men
who
must
witnessed
be
it who also
and
may have
about
felt
how things
uncomfortable.
are coming
So
into
I
the
owe
light
them
and
an
how
apology
she
as
may
well.
never be able to have children after some
Dan, talk to
unspecified
me about the
incident
writers'
that
room.
sounds like not
From
one
what I
but
saw,
actually two abortions.
not cool.
And remember how absent
and
Amanda's
I'm going to
parents
cut you off,
were?
but if I can
How
cut right
she
to the chase,
basically
let me just
moved
say,
in with Dan and his
no
wife for
writer
a while?
should ever
Well,
feel
the message
uncomfortable in
specifies
any
that
writer's
the
room,
producer
ever,
that put her in this
period, the
situation
end, no
was
excuses.
truly like a second father to me.
Most
and
TV
here's
writers,
the
comedy
crazy
writers
part.
have been
If you
in writers'
notice
rooms
the
and
capital
they
letters
are
she
aware
cheekily
that a lot of
references,
times
it
there are
spells
inappropriate
out
jokes made
Dan
and
did
inappropriate
it.
topics come
Is
up.
that why he
But
kept
the fact that
quickly
I
references,
participated in
it
that,
spells
especially
out
when I was
crazy
leading
part.
the room,
If you notice the
it
capital
embarrasses
letters
me.
she
I shouldn't
cheekily
have done it.
references, it spells out Dan
I can
did
tell
it.
you
Is
why
that
it
why
hurts
he kept
really
putting her
bad
in so
for
many
me.
projects to keep
I
her
remember
happy
very
and
clearly
quiet?
my early
I mean, only
experiences,
a
my first
few months
experiences
before
in
this
the
blind
entertainment
item,
business.
Amanda
I
Bynes
was
publicly
green, I was
spoke
scared,
up on
I was
Dan
excited.
after all these
It meant the
years in a
world to me that I
single
was getting those
deleted
opportunities.
tweet and
And I went in,
openly
and I
compared
got
him
lucky
to
because they were
Harvey
great. My first couple of
Weinstein, a
experiences were
convicted
fantastic.
serial
And
abuser
the fact
who
that
systematically tormented women
and
in
the
the
fact
film
that I didn't
industry
pay that
under
forward
the
to
guise
every
of
employee
making
that
their
walked
careers.
through my door,
And that Weinstein
it hurts my heart
tweet isn't
because I
from
should
her
have.
main
And I wish I
Amanda
could go back
Bynes
and fix
account
that.
because that account
In the
was
writer's
run by
room,
her parents.
there's no
But
doubt
instead,
that
it was
sometimes those
posted
jokes
on
went
her
beyond the
secret
pale, and
burner
I said
account
things that
under the
went
name
too far, or
Ashley
made
Banks.
practical
And
jokes that
before
went
you
too
go
far.
thinking that this could have
And
been an
that was wrong.
impersonator,
And
Amanda
that was
posted
because
a picture
I
of
was
her
an
actual
inexperienced
licensed
producer. I was
account to prove
immature.
her identity.
Wouldn't happen today.
And so
but
if this account
I'm just really
really
sorry
is
it happened.
Amanda's,
Yeah.
then we have her
Now, we know you've had
openly
a lot of
stating here
success
that she
over
believes her
2
family
decades.
was stealing her
Thousands
money
of people have
and
worked with you
revealing
for you.
even worse
Let's
forms of
speak directly to the people who did.
abuse than anything we've covered about.
Alright, so it's now orange is great for sure. Alright, so it's great. It's great.
Because your father touched you.
But despite all that he may have put her through, Dan still scorned Amanda. Which leads me to our final blind item that really just ties in a scary amount of what we've uncovered through this whole video. Basically, this person claims that Victoria Justice was blackballed for not sleeping with Dan. But even more disturbing are quotes like how he initially didn't try to sleep with her because she was over 18 for most of the show.
How did they just turn the lights out? Bro. How did the lights go out and then they came back on? I was literally gonna say it was great too, bro. Oh my goodness. Come on, dude. on, bro. Please get the check. I think the other one is white, or one of them is white. Yeah, it's black. Cook, black cook. No, bro, no. I don't even know what the imposters are. I just know it's gray. I think the other one is white. One of them is white. I said if it wasn't orange, it was gray. That's why the nigga killed me, 'cause I'm the only one that... No, he wasn't, bro. It was unanimously voted red. He wasn't about to get you voted. That was me. Oh yeah, I was bro. Last game. That's funny. Bruh. Horror. And Drake Bell got arrested. What the? Orange, why orange? Orange, all right. Now I bought an orange, but boy. That's so gay. Grown man.
So I told people on the set, I don't have a good feeling. And she goes, maybe you're just homophobic. And I was...
Homophobic. Okay, Browner wrote that. Okay. I think it might have been a double kill. Drew both Vipers. Damn, 3 people that. Banana. W press. W press, man. W press. Just watch. I found a way. If you open up, and it can't be him either, cause I had to I had the bottles on. Wow. It's not even a safe shit, that's an actual 10. He's trying to make it seem like it's a safe shit because of the shit he killed. I'm outside at 10 p.m. without sleep.
So of course Drake wasn't going to be able to just stroll off into the sunset with a romantic partner. His entire perspective on relationships
Plant push. Plant puss. No one man should have all that power.
All of my time at my girlfriend's house because I felt so safe there. There was this time that I was at her house. He started calling my girlfriend's house non-stop. I mean, over and over and over and over.
Even though his girlfriend wasn't adding tension into the relationship, Brian was forcing Drake to bring a state of tension into all of his relationships. Something that continued into his future relationships as well. Because even though he stopped when Drake finally risked everything and told his mom and the police finally arrested Brian, the tension doesn't automatically go away. Especially when you have to face your abuser in court like Drake did in 2004. But it wasn't just Drake facing Brian. His worst nightmare had begun when a teenage Drake walked into that courtroom despite the severity of the disgusting charges against Brian. Drake saw a sea of faces on Brian's side, full of industry higher-ups, execs, producers, directors, and well-known actors. And then he had to stand in front of all these people who could make or break his budding career and read a statement he prepared, which I will say was incredibly courageous.
I looked at all of them and I said, you will forever have the memory of sitting in this courtroom and defending this person.
Was that tan? Was that yellow?
Pleading guilty to all of that, he was only sentenced to 16 months in prison. So there was still the tension of running into him on set or at a party or in the grocery store. So you can
No, it's yellow. I don't know what I was about to say.
taking claws to the back of his mind. I mean, if you believe he's there, you'll start to seek out the tension. You'll want to find it before it finds you. But the impact it had on Drake's ex-girlfriend was devastating. Because whenever the tension builds up too much, then comes phase 2, the incident. In a cycle of abuse, the incident essentially is the boiling point. And it's where the major abuse happens. You know,
Don't call me tonight. Don't call me tonight. Don't call me tonight. Wake up. I'm the first of the month. And I already had enough. I don't know. I'm out of touch. Really to come with the light. I want to really to come with the night. And 4 years of college. They do 25 to life. We make money every night.
excuses Drake's actions, but it is important to see the full picture on why he's doing these things for us to truly gauge our feelings around culpability. And two, I want to be clear that what we're about to cover is his ex-girlfriend's account and the evidence she provided. But Drake has denied it, and there's been no court case or official investigation into it. So we're going to throw an alleged flag up here to note any time we're talking about things that are allegations but were not proven in a court of law. Okay, so Melissa Lindenfeld, who goes by Imiono on TikTok in 2020 about the abusive relationship she had with Drake Bell from 2006 to 2008. And to fully understand their dynamic and how the tension built up before the incident started, it's important to note that when they started dating, Melissa was only 16, a high school sophomore, and of course, living with her parents. But Drake was 20. And on top of the age gap, which is illegal in California, even with parental consent, things got complicated quickly because Melissa moved in with him very soon into dating. But as we just learned, it wasn't like an immediate jump to an incident. It took time for the tension to build before it finally bubbled over.
It wasn't until about a year when the verbal abuse started. And when I say verbal abuse, imagine the worst type of verbal abuse you could ever imagine, and that was what I got.
That does sound eerily similar to how Drake would later phrase his abuse story in Quiet on Set.
Why don't you think of the worst stuff that someone can do to somebody as a sexual assault, and that'll answer your question.
I'm not saying it was intentional or anything, but just notice how often we see recurring patterns when dealing with the cycle of abuse. She went on to say the incidents she faced with Drake started escalating.
It then turned into physical. hitting, throwing, everything. He dragged me down the stairs. My face hit every step on the way down.
Melissa then posted more videos with photos of her journal at the time detailing the abuse, text messages recalling Drake scalding her with hot water, and a police report stating that Drake had threatened to kill and stab Melissa and her friend after they broke up. She also shared screenshots of conversations she had with other women who had DM'd her with their own stories. One of the girls claiming Drake had cheated on Melissa by taking a 15-year-old friend's virginity, also when he was 20. And then Drake's ex-fiancée, Peyton Lane Lopachin, who was with Drake from 2011 to 2016, she DM'd Melissa saying she went through the same horrific verbal, physical, and mental abuse. And that there were so many days where she thought Melissa went through this and she got out. And it made her think that she could get out too. In response to Melissa posting all of this, Drake said, "Clearly, Melissa still felt close enough to me that just last year she was comfortable reaching out to ask me to provide her with financial support during a tough time, which I did. I do not know if today's behavior is some kind of misguided quest for more money or attention, but I am reviewing my legal options." But here's the thing about Drake's response. He might not realize this, but both things can be true. Melissa can be the victim of horrible abuse and still go back to her abuser in a time of need. Because in these relationships, there's such a warped sense of unconditional love. You trauma bond together in the cycle of abuse. So that's what we know from the two sides. But either way, you might be wondering, why would Drake abuse someone after everything he went through? Well, there's a psychological reason for that. Obviously, every survivor's story is different, but this phenomenon of abuse survivors becoming the abuser is actually well documented, especially for people who suffered longer-term SA as a child like Drake. Dr. Elizabeth Hartney phrases it really well. By becoming an abuser, someone who has been abused can play the role of the more powerful person in the relationship in an attempt to overcome the powerlessness they felt. Unfortunately, this is not effective, and they may repeatedly dominate others in a futile attempt to get over the weakness they experienced. Think about it. Brian was constantly wielding his experience and connections over Drake to force him.
We're not gonna cook that because they're not talking.
Initially connected him and Brian, a love of the industry. Only now, instead of someone older being able to manipulate or control him, Drake was the one who knew the most, who had the connections, who could give or take away. His new, younger partners couldn't wield that over him. Another thing that SA survivors often encounter,
good memory.
in addition to seeking out attention, as we saw earlier, is this feeling of
Okay. Bob fella. You begin my love. You beat Lil Wayne was on Boondocks. I love you, boy, fella. Damn, why is the light so low? Who You crazy? Oh my god. What are these light settings? Fuck y'all these lights. These this vision. It's 25. Shit's on too. It's on 0.5. It's on half a vision. Even though I'm pretty sure somebody killed inside the pile. Unless I'm blind. Or you can just report bodies from the. Look at the setting. Bitch, you started as soon as you started before I could even look. Bro, I ain't even finished typing. I'm surprised he even saw purple, bro. He has to be one of them bosses himself. Lily can't see his squat. I should go to first. Like, this is a literal cheat code. You can't even see anyone. Like, I would kill in front of somebody. And the only way they'll see me is if I just stay right there. Fuck. Black. I miss black. Saw cyan. Fence. It's 22. Yeah.
Even before the tension starts building again to restart the whole cycle, the calm is anything but. Victims of abuse often try to retreat into fantasy worlds and even black out for large periods of time, as Drake recalls doing both during and after Brian's abuse.
It was so traumatic, I blacked out a lot of information.
Yeah.
And so I didn't really remember, and I don't think I put two and two together when I was working with Will on Spider-Man, that he had been in the courtroom.
It's no wonder why surviving child abuse so often goes hand in hand with substance abuse.
It's 22. This is expert lobby. If you hate it, then cry. The only. What's that? Blue and whites. Must be Rose and Greta, huh? Alright, wait, what's crying about the 2020. Chicken strips. Damn. Well, maybe if I could see, I would know he was. No. Can't even freaking see. I did not see that dude though.
However, Drake did still plead guilty to inappropriate and sexual relations with the victim. Honestly, where the case seems to be murky, which is why the charges stopped at child endangerment and dissemination, referring to the chats, is that even after they cut contact, the victim went to multiple other Drake Bell concerts, and there were witnesses, including the victim's friend, whose statements went against the victim's accusations of physical SA. For example, the victim said one time Drake physically assaulted her when she was alone in a room with him after a show, but her friend said she was actually never alone in the room with him.
And that friend was very clear that the victim had never gone into Mr. Bell's room alone, period.
Like I said, you can check out the full testimony on Law and Crime, but even if he argued some parts of it, Drake did acknowledge there was some truth to some of the allegations.
I have to take responsibility and accountability because nobody grabbed my hand and forced me to do those things.
So he does seem to have this track record of going after girls who are specifically in that 14 to 16-year-old range. What I think is interesting to note, given all the psychology we've dug into, is that that is exactly how old Drake was when he was dealing with the abuse and immediate aftermath of Brian Peck.
Well, maybe
so
if I could
those are the
see,
years
I
he
would
frequently talks about being essentially one big blur full of blackouts. Is it wrong for him to be going after these girls as an adult, especially one with celebrity power over them?
I did not see that dude though.
Absolutely yes. But is it because he's a pedophile like Brian Peck? Personally, I don't think so. I think Drake is actually just subconsciously drawn to that time in life that he feels like was ripped away from him. Not to mention, he seems to go after fans, which is important to note at a time when he openly admits that outside of Latin America, his fame has really been waning. In my unprofessional but heavily researched opinion, I think it all has to do with the fantasy escape that childhood SA survivors can find themselves in. So now we know a lot of reasons why Drake behaved the way he did. But can he break out of the cycle of abuse? We're all really feeling for him right now, but is another instance of him abusing someone else just around the corner? And is there ever truly redemption? Well, as with most psychological hurdles, the best help is therapy. Drake mentioned in Quiet on Set that he'd been working through all of his past abuse with therapists. And actually, after filming Wrapped, he said that getting into all of his past trauma in the interview, on top of going through a lot in his personal life, like his recent divorce from Janet, pushed him to go back to rehab.
We were going through a lot of trauma therapy, a lot of group therapy, a lot of one-on-one therapy. I mean, your entire day was filled.
Drake has also done another big thing that helps survivors break the cycle, starting fresh in a brand new environment. In 2019, Drake moved his family to Mexico. Now, he has no Mexican heritage, if you were wondering, but he does speak Spanish pretty well. Like to the point where he once announced he was going to turn his socials into purely Spanish.
Hola, soy Drake Bell y estoy en Estado de México.
Though that's subsided a bit now. He even started going by Drake Campana, which means bell. Like, he's that desperate to change anything about himself that could remind him of Brian and of his past. And he went to a place where he felt wanted. A place that treats him like the star that he set out to be as a young child. So, will the change of scenery and therapy and rehab and finally telling his story to the world be enough to break him from this cycle Brian started over 2 decades ago? I hope so. At least for the sake of him and his child.
The chicken strips. Butt dial to kill.
Some people have proven exactly why Drake kept all of this hidden from the public for so long.
We told you never to speak about that. Get back in your hole and give me your holes.
Sorry, we shouldn't joke about this.
Yes, he committed this act, but he committed this act after being manipulated himself, after being taken advantage of.
In retrospect, he was making a plea deal and admitting one thing, which is all he admitted to us, but he was charged originally with like a bunch of things.
Yes.
And we can't forget that in Quiet on Set's investigation, they actually uncovered and unsealed 41 letters from even more industry veterans who supported Brian in court and claimed Brian must have been seduced by a kid to do something like that.
But when we went to court, his entire side of the courtroom was full of directors, producers, writers, actors.
But there have been some positive sides that Drake can hopefully cling to in all of this to stay on a healthier path. People who have been praising Drake for speaking up and coming forward.
A lot of really famous people signed letters in support of him. Some even said that he was tempted. I mean, how the fuck are you gonna say an adult is tempted?
And it even seems like it's brought Drake and Josh back together again.
He has reached out to talk with me and help me work through this. It's been really, really great.
He has been on a long journey from the moments he first met Brian Peck until now. But given everything he's done to other people, is there truly a path to redemption for him? I mean, Brian Peck, a convicted pedophile who did all those things to Drake when he was younger, he's been walking around scot-free this whole time. After his 16-month sentence, he went right back to working in Hollywood. Just look at his IMDb. I don't know the answer, but I do feel like there has to be some possibility of redemption for Drake if his abuser can walk freely. He may not be able to right his own wrongs, but hopefully by sharing his own story and supporting other survivors coming forward, he can...
Well, I'm on my way. I have but you call the door an electrical.
That's most of what we know about what happened to Drake, though there still could be a lot more out there, as well as way more about the other terrible things that happened under Dan Schneider's control. Which, by the way, if you haven't watched my last video yet, I went into way more things about Dan Schneider that Quiet on Set didn't cover. So be sure to check that out. This is such a hard topic to discuss, but it's important to learn about all of this so that you can keep an eye out for these things happening in your life or in the lives of people you care about. And if you do feel that you or someone you know might be a victim and you don't know where to turn, I'll put the number to an abuse survivors support hotline in the description. In the meantime, where there's scandal, there's Scandy.
I've been waiting for someone to question the climate. It's been a long time coming.
Welcome to Ms. Mojo. And today, we're looking at Nickelodeon moments mentioned in Quiet on Set that seemed like kids' stuff at the time, but in retrospect feel problematic, cringy, or downright creepy.
The show is full of like these uncomfortable sketches. I think that Dan got a kick out of walking a line with that.
Number 10, Lil Fetus, All That. Brian Christopher Hearn stood out as one of the few black cast members during his seasons on All That. Hearn got the sense that Dan Schneider favored his white co-stars.
I didn't feel close to him at all.
Well, I'm on my way. I have but
my time on Nickelodeon played a big part in how I dealt and still deal with racial issues.
This was reflected in multiple sketches, including one where Hearn had to sell cookies as if he were a drug dealer. There were more blatant instances of racism behind the scenes.
Yo, embryo, I'm still here, gestating, waiting, and incubating.
To portray a rapper named Lil Fetus, Hearn had to wear a bodysuit that matched his skin tone. Hearn isn't sure who, but when he was being fitted, somebody said that the costume should be the same color as charcoal. A crew member could tell that this comment deeply hurt Hearn, attempting to comfort him. Hearn, nonetheless, decided against telling his mom.
I know my mom, and I know that she would have rose hell.
Number 9, In the Jacuzzi with Dan, The Amanda Show.
Dan and Amanda had a close relationship, and I didn't think anything different than that. The hot tub scene, though, I thought was always a little odd.
Amanda's jacuzzi was a recurring sketch on The Amanda Show. Wearing a bathing suit, star Amanda Bynes would interview a fully dressed guest in the hot tub with her. Cameos included Elvis, Babe Ruth, and Amelia Earhart. It was weird, but innocent enough, except for the time Dan Schneider joined her.
And he's kind of saying, I created the situation. I am the reason we are in this hot tub. I am pulling the strings.
Like the other guests, Schneider was fully clothed, making the idea of him hot tubbing with an underage girl a little less icky. Yet it's hard to watch the scene without thinking about Schneider's real-life dynamic with Bynes, namely how he tried to help her get emancipated.
The details are a little bit murky, but we know from sources that the police were involved. And
What John just to get by, not your money. Wasn't supposed to make it past 25. Jokes on you, we still alive. Throw your hands up in the sky and say we don't care what people say. Let me do two. I don't know if the tasks are like.
Number 7. Judge Trudy Classroom Sketch, The Amanda Show. Quiet on Set spotlights an Amanda Show sketch where Judge Trudy takes her court to a classroom. The sketch itself is harmless, but there is a darker backstory buried there.
Overruled! Overruled! What part confuses you? The over or the ruled?
The sketch included an extra named Brandy, who grew up loving Nickelodeon and was excited to get her start in the industry. During this time, Brandy was befriended by a Nickelodeon production assistant named Jason Handy.
She thought, oh, this is somebody else on the set that seemed to be so nice and she would have a friend in the industry. I thought, oh, this is going well.
Conversing online, it appeared that
Wouldn't look at half 25. Jokes on you, we still alive. Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Her mother initially avoided contacting the police. Authorities eventually found that Brandy was just one of the children Handy had been inappropriate with.
There was never any apology to Brandy herself for what happened.
Then they all, both my iPods died.
Number 6. On-Air Dares. Snake. They made it look like so much fun on
Okay, not been killing.
being a Nickelodeon star can come with some real baggage. The sugar and
Sad.
coffee
Let me start cooking with that. Oh, I was going to kill him right there. And then let me kill, bro.
For Brian Christopher Hearn, nothing could make so much
Some kind of awkward fantasy from some freaky dude. It was really uncomfortable. I didn't like that.
The visual discomfort Hearn expresses doesn't even begin to describe how he felt inside. While we wouldn't want to be in Hearn's place, we'd still probably take the peanut butter over putting a scorpion in our mouth, which was another dare.
If there's anything on set that I wish I could have yelled, stop, let's not do this, I'm out, it's still on there, Dares.
Number 5. Penelope Taint, The Amanda Show.
Get back in line! Sir, apparently you don't realize who I am, please.
Amanda Bynes
You got the llama. I got my mom.
Nicholas recalled a particularly traumatic episode where his character accidentally squirted two-base Matt Hall on Jamie Lynn Spears' face. Others argue that this is in the spirit of
Yummy.
Nickelodeon's trademark slime, but the substance's shape and texture call something else to mind. We're not grasping at suggestive straws. According to Nicholas, somebody on set called
But yeah, let me just stop me pointing the bodies, bro. I want to kill Maroon earlier. Are they finna win by Taz? I don't know.
Wasn't funny. It still isn't funny to me, to be honest. It's just like, as a kid.
The scene's sexualized nature is only made more uncomfortable knowing the pregnancy scandal Spears later faced. Number 2, Dan Schneider's Lifetime Achievement Award, 27th Kids' Choice Awards. In over 30 years, the Kids' Choice Awards have
This
given out
is the part where break free. I can't just take it no more. But you was on Huff. Alright, let's do shit.
Speaking about how key he was to their careers.
Having created so many hit shows for the network, Schneider seemed worthy of such praise. In only 2 years, the public started to see Schneider in a different light.
For decades, Dan seemed like he was untouchable, but around 20
Damn, what the fuck?
the internet videos around Dan really started
Are the
being
people?
For all the career
I might just cut these comments off right quick.
victimized by him. You have a lower opinion of Schneider than Jeanette McCurdy, who didn't show up to present this version. Side aside, we still enjoy many of these Nickelodeon shows, but we'll never forget their creators.
Why did you take? Okay, bro.
He behaved in a way that was pretty concerning and problematic, especially when it comes to women, and how he treated people as a boss on set.
Before we continue, be sure to
Yeah, let me just
subscribe
stop
to our
recording the
channel
bodies,
and
bro.
ring the bell to get notified about
I
our
wanna kill
latest
Maroon earlier.
videos. You have the option to be notified for
they finna
occasional
win
videos
by
or
Taz.
all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, Pickle Boy. All that.
Look, there's Brian Peck, aka Pickle Boy.
There was something very wrong with Pickle Boy. We're not talking about the time he handed a pickle to Ray Romano through a hole, although that did push some boundaries. In addition to playing Pickle Boy, Brian Peck served as a dialogue coach on multiple Nickelodeon shows, working with young stars like Drake Bell. There were evident red flags that Peck shouldn't be anywhere near children, such as his friendship with John Wayne Gacy. Yet Bell was caught off guard as Peck allegedly groomed and assaulted him.
I was just trapped.